With a huge winter storm on the way, many Humber students are doing their snow day dance.
And Canada fails to make the grade when it comes to youth unemployment. Humber News starts now.
Hello, it's Thursday, February 7th. Welcome to Humber News, coming to you from the Broadcast Center here at the North Campus. I'm Samantha Martin. Thanks for joining us.
And I'm Basil Rayhan. Ahead on our show, we have all your news and sports highlights as well as your 5-day weather forecast. But first, our top story.
Environment Canada is warning Southern Ontario to brace itself for the largest winter storm since 2011. The warning has Humber students and faculty wondering if they will get their first snow day of the year. Vice President of Academics, Michael Hatton, says he works directly with Toronto Police when making the decision on whether or not to close the school. Hatton says if Humber were to close, students can be assured they will find out in advance of classes.
We would be making the decision in a timely fashion, which essentially means that when we know for certain that we're not going to be open, then in fact we would announce the closure. So there's no specific time. The reality is that probably only 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 forecast big storms actually leads to a closing.
If the decision to close the school is made, it will be announced on Humber's website at humber.ca.
A new report has given Canada a B grade in youth unemployment. The report also lists Canada as the lowest in vocational training compared to 15 other countries, including France and Norway. But is vocational training the answer to Canada's youth unemployment problems? Our reporter Stephen Donkers digs up some answers.
Daniel Croft is a final-year electrician student at Humber College. He says finding and maintaining a job in the trades is tough.
It's hard. It's because the industry fluctuates, so sometimes there's lots of work and sometimes there's none. So you can get a job and then 6 months later you can be laid off.
A Conference Board of Canada report says the Canadian education system has tended to promote academic skills over the pursuit of skills in the trades. This can be a challenge for many Canadian youth looking for jobs in the trade sector. The report also lists Canada as the lowest in vocational training out of 16 countries for people ages 20 to 24. A report from TD Bank this week says rising youth unemployment in Canada, triggered by the recession, will continue to impact the country's youth for years to come. Some industry professionals say that youth unemployment and vocational training is affected by the job market and what jobs are currently in demand in our economy. Humber Applied Technology professor Craig Trenier agrees.
If we do have a need for more tradesmen, then there's some talk that maybe we ought to streamline the process and get more tradesmen being trained.
Career Center Manager Karen Fast says there is a demand for jobs in the trades, but schools like Humber should be focusing more on teaching trade and applied technology skills.
Lately, all the applied tech positions have been coming in like crazy. We have seen a huge increase in all of our tech job postings, and demand from employers are looking at all those STEM careers as being very critical.
Humber recently hosted over 50 different employers who are looking to hire in different fields, including the skilled trades. Stephen Donkers, Humber News.
It's official, Ontario Finance Minister Dwight Duncan will be stepping down next week. Duncan formally made the announcement last night via Twitter. The minister has been MPP for the Windsor area riding since 1995. A year later, he ran against Dalton McGuinty to become leader of the Ontario Liberals and lost. Duncan's resignation leaves room for new Premier-designate Kathleen Wynne to name her own finance minister. She's expected to announce a new cabinet Monday.
One person is dead after a GO train hit a pedestrian this morning in Burlington. The eastbound train struck the individual west of a Burloak Drive rail crossing just before 6 a.m. The identity of the victim has not yet been released. Officials will release more information once the investigation is complete. A 17-year-old was killed by a GO train last August in Burlington, and another teen was killed in Oakville in 2011.
The Toronto Community Housing Corporation is under investigation due to a number of staff issues, including double billing, cutting corners, and shoddy work. TCHC President and CEO Eugene Jones ordered the review after receiving an anonymous tip. In December, Jones said the audit is nearing completion and that wrongdoings have already been revealed. He also promised action, including employee dismissals and civil action. The investigation is expected to be completed in the second quarter of this year.
Canadian astronaut Commander Chris Hadfield had a chat with another famous space explorer today, Captain James T. Kirk of the USS Enterprise. William Shatner made the out-of-this-world phone call just before 11 this morning. Among other things, the two discussed how Star Trek played a role in inspiring Hadfield.
They inspire people like me to do things like this. And without that inspiration, and then without the technological capability that comes along with it, none of it would be possible.
Hadfield has previously communicated with other USS Enterprise crew members, George Takei and Leonard Nimoy, through Twitter.
When we come back, we'll have more news from around the country and the world. Marco DeMeo will have your sports news, and Julia Frazina will have an update on the weather.
For early spring, there will be a significant impact on your commute Friday morning, as much of southern and eastern Ontario is bracing for a snowstorm. I'll have your 5-day forecast after the break.